Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly O'Horo, and this is Adaptable, Behavior Explained. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Kelly O'Horo, and I'm your host of Adaptable, Behavior Explained. And I wanted to talk about the topic today because this is something that a lot of people don't recognize when they decide to go do therapy, and specifically trauma therapy. And there's kind of micro movements that happen from survival mode moving towards joy. And oftentimes they're really subtle and maybe you don't notice them as you're going through it. And so this episode is for you if you've been doing the work for a while and you're like, what am I supposed to be noticing, or what's going on, or how am I going to know that things are going better? And as some of you know, I am a licensed therapist in the state of Arizona, and I'm an EMDR trainer, trauma therapist, and specialist in attachment and dissociation. So this topic is very near and dear to me because I've had the beautiful honor of sitting beside people while they heal. And we're going to talk about how healing is really not linear, it's gradual, but really more about how people shift from that survival mode, those states of hyperarousal or hypoarousal or shutdown, into something that's softer and more stable. And we're going to talk about how joy can feel kind of suspicious, how calm can feel a little bit phobic after trauma work, and how healing, like I said, it's not a straight line, it's more of a rhythm. And we can have arousal and de-arousal sequences in our healing journey. And for those of you who've been in what I would call like a survival mode your whole life, you might not even recognize that you're in a naturally anxious state until you have a little bit of an absence of it. So you know who you are if that resonates with you. So when we're experiencing trauma, whether it's acute, like something that happened recently, or it's chronic, something that happened a long time ago and there was a lot of things that happened over time, our nervous system adapts to keep us safe. So that might look like hypervigilance, it might look like anxiety or irritability, or it might look like the opposite. Maybe you're someone who numbs out or disconnects or is in a chronic state of exhaustion, which is not tired, it's different, it's emotion. These are not character flaws. These are biological responses to overwhelm and an extended time of cortisol and adrenal responses that just really wear our body out. And in trauma therapy, we often talk about this thing called the window of tolerance. And this is kind of the zone where we can feel and think at the same time. Survival mode lives outside of that window. So here's the thing. When you have lived outside of that window for a long time, calm is likely to feel very unfamiliar and potentially even threatening. And when I say out of that window, that means you're in like a phase of hyperarousal, which can look like anxiety, hypervigilance, can't really sit still, anxious, like I said, or hypoarousal, which is more like dead, passive, shut down, no feelings, can't say no. Those are some aspects of being outside of that window of tolerance. So now we're going to talk a little bit about why joy can feel a little bit elusive and suspicious, and oftentimes pretty foreboding. After trauma, joy can feel like a trap. Like if I lean into this joy and I feel the good that's happening, the other shoe is most certainly going to drop because it always has. And clients will often tell me, I don't trust it. This is too good to be true. And they can't really slow down and settle into the moments of joy. And Brené Brown calls this foreboding joy, which is that feeling that something bad is going to happen. And I call it dress rehearsing tragedy. It's like just when things start to feel good, the other shoe is going to drop. And it's a protective strategy, especially for those who've experienced trauma. And joy can feel really terrifying because it's vulnerable. It asks us to be present, to soften, to have hope, and hope can feel terrifying. It's also really powerful. And when your nervous system has been trained to expect danger, that kind of openness can feel like not a good idea, like no go, unsafe. But here is what's super beautiful. Joy doesn't have to be big. It can start as a flicker, just a moment of stillness, a breath that doesn't feel tight. You know, the soft moment of the breeze through the trees that you notice, and then you feel that correlation onto your face when you see it happening. And these are micro movements of healing, and it's a tiny shift that kind of signals to your system that it's learning safety again. And so when you think about healing, it's rhythmic. It's not linear. Like I said, it doesn't move in a straight line. It's not a staircase. It's a wave. Or a spiral. You might feel grounded one day and then triggered the next, or even moment to moment, calm and then triggered. That doesn't mean you're back at square one. It means that your system is kind of dancing with integration. Think of it like music. There's crescendos and rests, movement and stillness. Healing is rhythmic, and rhythm is a sign of life. And the only thing that's constant about life is that there will be change. And so we need to be able to roll with the ebbs and flows and have more flexibility in our nervous system to be able to pivot and adapt when things are going to happen that aren't on our terms and aren't our way. And so these micro movements really matter. What do they look like? This might be noticing your breath without needing to change it, or saying no without guilt, which was a really, really hard one for me to get. Laughing and then realizing that you didn't brace for it and that you were okay to do it, or feeling sadness and just letting it pass, letting it be what it needs to be. It could pass through you and not overtake you. And these are tiny revolutions. They're not always visible to others, but they are really profound, and they're evidence that your nervous system is in fact shifting. They deserve to be celebrated. These micro moments deserve celebration. And so this is really evidence that you are moving from that survival mode to subtle joy. And subtle joy is different than straight happiness. The other day I had a client that said, I just want to be happy. I just want to feel joy all the time. And I said, I have really bad news. That is not human. We are not robots. We are going to have an evolution of emotions depending on the variables that exist, which is the people in our lives and how we are in relationship and what's going on with them. Because with loving people, we risk vulnerability and loss. And so we don't get to decide what is going to happen. And in relationships, which are everywhere, in our work, in our schools, in our homes, there's variables in other humans that we don't have any control over. But if we can ebb and flow with the shifts of our emotional experience, and we are not in that active nervous system state of fight or flight, we can start to have more subtle joy. It's not performative. It's not loud. It's subtle. It's that quiet joy of feeling safe in your own skin and trusting your body again. It's noticing beauty without needing to earn it. So if you're on this path, know this: you are not broken. You are healing, and healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a little bit of a whisper. So today, that's all I've got for you related to the subtle shifts between survival and joy. I hope that helps you better understand why you're not in one full-fledged outcome if you're doing counseling or trauma work. And if you found this episode helpful, please make sure to subscribe, like it, and share it with someone who might need to hear this, who's struggling with this journey of healing and find it to not be done fast enough. This would be a good episode to share with them. Thank you for being here. And until we meet again, don't forget to lead with love. It'll never steer you wrong.